I've been picking up some key comics from Heritage Auctions over the last few months. Stay tuned to see what I've picked up and added to the PC. Welcome back, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and today we've got a comic book haul from Heritage Auctions. This is not from one auction, but rather from multiple auctions over the last 2 to 3 months. It's been spread out, so the cost is spread out a little bit, so it isn't all at one time. These are really good books. We'll go over the books, we'll go over the significance of each one. We'll talk about if they're good values and what I think, especially those raws, if I can get them into the shop, what they can possibly grade out to be. Okay, before we get started, definitely hit that like button, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you won't miss out on any of my shows that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 10 a.m. All right, guys, sit back, let's enjoy this, and let's get to the books. Alright guys, so we got some really good books from Heritage Auctions, and they're not in any particular order. I didn't keep them in order, but they all are from Heritage Auctions. They've come in over the last few months, and I've picked up all of these mostly because these are really good keys to have in the PC, and some of them are definitely going to be ones that eventually I'll sell, but I wouldn't mind keeping them in the PC for a while. I've got some really good books here. Let's just get into it right now. So the very first book that I picked up is one that's a classic, but I got it at a lower grade mostly because I just wanted it in the PC. It is the first appearance of Jack Russell, Werewolf by Night. This is Marvel Spotlight number 2. This came out in February of 1972. I bought this as a 4.0, and this is one of those ones that it's not that expensive. The last sale that I found was on eBay for $145. It's not an expensive book at that grade. And as I said, I bought this as a lower grade, and this is more just to have in the PC. I never had this book, although I had a lot of the Werewolf by Night books growing up. I never had the Moon Knight one, but I had a bunch of those growing up. And I never had this book right here. You got a Neil Adams and Tom Palmer cover. I always felt like if it wasn't John Buscema, Neil Adams was always the perfect penciler for Tom Palmer. But then again, who wasn't the perfect penciler for Tom Palmer? I mean, such a great inker, but it's really good to have this in the PC. I will hold on to this for a while. We'll see if we get another Werewolf by Night special on Disney Plus. I think, and just as a side note, the Werewolf by Night TV show that was on Disney Plus last year was definitely one of my favorite shows of Marvel over the last year. If you guys haven't checked that out, definitely give that a shot. That was just a fun show. Got Man-Thing in it. That was awesome. I don't know. Let me know what you think about the show. I definitely loved it. It was one of my favorite things, but I'm happy to have this into the PC right now. All right, next book up goes into my 2023 goals list, and sort of. It goes outside that window just a little bit, but that doesn't mean that I'm not extending what I'm doing. What I'm talking about is the 9.6 to 9.8 run of John Byrne X-Men. And yes, that's issues 108 up to 143. Now, I'm doing pretty good on that, but that doesn't mean that I'm not extending that out just a little bit, especially earlier. And this is what this is. This is issue 105. And you've got this great Phoenix and Firelord cover right there by Dave Cockrum. Dave Cockrum was still the penciler on the book at this point. This is a 9.6. It is an older slab here. You got the old label. I will be sending this in at some point to have it reholdered. We'll see what kind of order goes in, whether or not I get the specialty label on that. Personally, I don't think I'm going to do a special label right now. Right now, CGC is doing the Magneto label for custom labels, and honestly, I'm not really a big fan of that. I kind of wish they'd just go back to the one that they were using before, which was from Giant Size X-Men #1. But regardless, this is a great book. It kind of goes into that 9.6 X-Men run I'm trying to do, although it is not a John Byrne book, but it is close enough, and I'm definitely will work my way down from 108 down to 94. I've got 94 and 98. actually 98's graded. That's one of my best books I've got in a PC. I've got that graded as a 9.8. And I've got several other graded ones down to 94. But none of them are as high grade as this one right here. So this is really cool to get this in the 9.6. We'll get this into the CGC for that reholdering pretty soon. Give me some values on this. The last one just sold a 9.6. Now it was in a newer slab from CGC, sold for $295. I didn't pay anywhere near that for this. And yes, I will have to put in another, what is it, $25, $30 with shipping and everything to get this reholdered. But what I will do is I will bundle this in with another order, so it will get into the system. Hopefully, if I send it in with a signature series book, it'll get open pretty soon. If I don't, it may take a little bit of time to get it into the system. But right now, this is strictly for the PC, but it's definitely a good value because I definitely paid well under market for this. So that's real nice. I've got that as a roll, but I haven't worked on it yet. All right, now this book right here is one, I don't usually buy CBCS, but it was in a super good grade. And it's actually part of a collection. Now, CBCS, I've never known them how they do their collections. You know how on CGC you'll have sometimes the special collections like the Promise collection, for example, you will see the kind of the gold labeling at the top, and they will do something to designate that collection. I've seen some lesser collections where it's simply been, there's a sticker on the case, things like that. But I ended up buying this from CBCS. It is issue number 63 of Justice League of America, and this came out in March of 1963, and I bought this, June of 1968. My apologies. I'm looking at a different book right there. I've got notes so I can keep track of these things. But June of 1968, I ended up paying about $114 for this. And that's with shipping and the fees from Heritage and all. 9.6s on this. CGC version of this just went for $189 back in May of this year. So I felt like this was a really good value at a 9.6. This is a Silver Age book, and 9.6 is on, I don't want to say significant, but on major books. And we're not talking lesser books like Gold Key. That's great to get high grades on those things, but to get it on bigger titles, it's pretty good. So I pretty much bought this on the grade. Now, what I didn't know when I bought it, because I wasn't paying quite enough attention at the time, was it is part of a collection, and it is labeled on here. It's part of the Newsstand Mint collection, and they sent a little note here talking about this and about the story about the owner of this, who had amassed I'm going to read a little bit, had amassed a huge collection beginning in 1967. He was in San Jose. He was a comic book hobbyist. He wanted to open his own store, and he was handpicking out at least one copy, sometimes multiple copies of every new title that came out, and just the finest copies he could find. And he continued building this inventory through the 70s, 80s, and 90s. By 92, though, he was no longer reading comics and keeping up with the industry, and he lost interest in the hobby and in opening a shop. So the books he meticulously handpicked over 25 years were put in an indoor temperature-controlled storage facility, and then in 93, and packed away for an unknown future. 2015, presented with a chance to relocate overseas, he made a tough choice to sell his collection, and basically they went on to sell the collection and get a lot of this graded. Now, this is part of that collection. I didn't buy it because of that, but it is a neat little addendum to the whole story of this book, and that's pretty cool. So this is one that I will probably definitely just keep in the CBCS case. I don't need to reholder this for any reason, and I don't even know if transferring this over to CGC, if they would even retain or recognize this as part of a collection like that. So right now, I'm real happy with that. I bought this even though, as you guys may know, I've been trying to pick up some Justice League and some DC Silver Age titles, but mostly with the crossovers with the Justice Society. And this isn't one of those, but it is a great cover. You got that big Superman on the cover there. It is a really nice issue. And again, I bought this just because the grade was fantastic. So it's kind of cool to have in your PC. I don't know how long I'll hold on to something like that, but that is pretty cool. Now, this next book is a book when I started collecting for real, not just reading comics and buying comics from the newsstand, but actually collecting. My grandmother would once a month usually let me buy from one of the sellers that you would find in the ads in the comic books. I found a couple places where I would buy comics from. Janus Comics is the one that comes to mind. And normally she would buy one book. Now we didn't have a lot of money, but she would buy one book, and I'd usually have to buy a good or a very good copy of something. And I usually would buy based on some of my favorite villains I wanted to learn more about, books that were out before I was born. And one of those cases, my very first book was Avengers 69, which was an early appearance of Kang that was very affordable and a good, very good book. But one of my second favorite villain during that time in the early 80s was the Absorbing Man. And what I bought was the very first appearance of the Absorbing Man in Journey into Mystery number 114. And I've had that copy ever since. It's a good, very good, maybe very good plus. I'm not really sure. I haven't dug it out of the PC for a long time. But this came up on Heritage Auctions. I'll show it to you. It was a 7.0. And I felt like this was a really good value. This I ended up paying about $228 for with fees and shipping involved. Last one just sold here just in the last few days in July for $325. So I'm telling you right now, I think I got a fantastic deal on it. I will sit on this book for a while. I probably will look to upgrade it at some point, but for a 7.0, this presents really nice. Little rough on the edges, but slight little dog ear down here, but this is a sharp corner. It's still a sharp corner, just a little dog ear. And then, and then the back is actually really clean. I guess the wear on the spine is what's getting it. It's 7.0. It is off-white to white pages. But it's one of those things. I haven't looked up the Graders notes or anything, but I'm real happy to have this in the PC as a much better copy than the one that I've owned for the last 45 years. So that's really nice. Great book. I love The Absorbing Man. There's been some really fantastic stories with The Absorbing Man, but this is his first appearance. Can't go wrong with that. All right, so the last slab that I got, and I bought it at a super low grade, mostly because it was affordable, and I wasn't really worrying about the spec that was coming from James Gunn and the new DCU, anything like that. It is just a good book. In most cases, I'm not worrying about what's out there being influenced by MCU or DCU film projects or anything like that. I mean, yes, when something comes out and all of a sudden the price shoots up, I don't necessarily want to go buy at that point. But I worry about getting books that are just good key books to have in the PC. It didn't matter what happens with James Gunn. This book was still a key comic. And as I said, I bought it at a lower grade because it was pretty affordable. Let me show it to you. It's a 3.0 Green Lantern number 59, the first appearance of Guy Gardner. And I ended up paying about $129 for this. 3.0 went back in June on eBay for about $160, so maybe a little bit of a deal, but who knows what the value is right now, especially since they announced that they have cast, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner for the upcoming project that James Gunn's doing. I don't know how much that's going to affect anything, but regardless, this is a key comic, and I'm happy to have that in the PC at this point. All right, let's go over to the Raw comics, and this is where you have a chance to possibly increase your value by getting it graded after doing a clean and press, and that's kind of what I like to do with Heritage Auctions. My experience, especially with some of the Silver Age books, has been that they are graded conservatively, meaning that with a little bit of with a press and maybe a little bit of work, you can get it bumped up 1, maybe 2 grades. And that's been my experience with the books that I've sent out that I've done that with. And that's what I'm hoping with all of these. Let's just start with this comic right here. It is Showcase. Which one is this? This is Showcase number 56. This is the first appearance of the Psycho Pirate, I guess the second Psycho Pirate. In fact, I didn't know there was a first one now. I thought this was the first one. But what do I know? But what do you have on there is you got Dr. Fate, Hourman. These are classic Justice Society of America members. These showcases like this were the first appearances of these characters in the Silver Age. I don't know if these were the first appearances in the Silver Age for both of these or not, but early appearances. And again, it's a JSA, and I love the JSA. So I thought this was pretty cool. This was graded a very fine from Heritage Auctions, and I spent just under $100 for this. But let's talk about grading potential. So a very fine kind of works out to an 8.0 if you just translate it over from regular grading to CGC grading. And price I found for an 8.0 is about $230 on eBay. That was back in April this year. God forbid we can bump it further than that, so I'll give you a couple of those grades and prices as well. 8.5, about $267. That was in December of last year on eBay. And then, who knows, maybe I can even pull a 9.0. I don't think so, but a 9.0 would go for about $360, and that was a sale this month, or just this last month on Heritage Auctions. So regardless, I think as long as I didn't miss something, as long as Heritage Auctions didn't miss something in the grading, I think this book's going to do pretty good for me. If it drops down to a 7.5, I still think I will have a little bit of value in it, but I don't think it's going to drop down that far. Hopefully we'll get that up to at least an 8.5, maybe a 9.0. We'll see. The next one is not a key comic, but again, it's just some early Justice League stuff, and this one doesn't have any JSA involved, but I remember with this book, they had 3 books being auctioned at the same time on this particular auction. They had the 2 early Crisis books from the JLA. Was it 21 and 22? And I bid on this mostly because I remember this cover. I remember reading old DC comics and seeing the advertisements inside, and you see the other issues being sold that month. And I remember seeing this issue in one of those old issues that I had, and I always thought that was pretty cool. Of course, you've got the Atom, and everybody's smaller than the Atom. They always had fun with that juxtaposition. So I didn't really intend on winning this, to be honest with you. I was really shooting for those other 2 issues, but I happened to win this. This is a book, they've graded this as a very fine as well, and paid less than $100 for this. 8.0 just went back in June of this year. Graded 8.0 for about $195. If we could bump this up to an 8.5, the last sale I saw on that was about the same. It was actually $185. So that was back in December of last year. I haven't seen a sale of an 8.5 since. 9.0 hasn't gone for a couple years, and that was a best offer of $385. So it's hard to tell you what exactly that got paid for. It was a best offer. But I think this one's going to grade out really good. In fact, I think it's better than a Showcase. So keep your fingers crossed on one like this. Now, this is a book that I will get graded eventually, and I'll hold on to it, but I will definitely have it open. I'll be open to sell it at some point. It's not a key book, but at a high grade, it definitely would be something that somebody would like. So anyway, good book to have. All right, now here is a book that is a key simply because of the cover. It has gotten a lot of traction over the last year. In fact, I've seen the price rise on this a lot over the last year because of the cover. And I will tell you that this is the one where I think I ended up overpaying for it, but we'll see where the market goes. But I will definitely hold on to it for a while. This is Fantastic Four number 72. Heritage Auctions graded this as a fine plus. So hopefully we'll get that above that we'll get that bumped up just a little bit. I'd like to get that up to a 7.5 or, God forbid, even 8.0. I don't think it necessarily can reach that. But this is a book that I was a little surprised that the values on the grading was as low as it was. Yeah, like I said, I definitely paid around these same prices, so I don't know if I'm going to end up getting my money out of this or not, but it's one that it's such a nice book that I probably will go ahead and grade it anyway, and I'll just hold on to my PC, and if it ever bumps back up and people are hot on this book again, or more so, I will look to probably move at some point and try to get a better copy. But 6.5 went back just a few months ago, or a few weeks ago, in fact, on eBay for $164. That's actually not bad. 7.0, $184 back in May of this year, and even a 7.5 went for $198 on eBay back in July this year too. And if I had done this again, and I really wanted this book, I probably should have just bought the graded version. But there's times when I'm on there and I see these graded books and I think they're undervalued. And in some of these cases, and all of these except for this one, well, maybe a little bit of this last one, I probably overpaid for it. You definitely get caught up in the, I don't want to say FOMO, but you get caught up in the excitement of winning on Heritage Auctions, and I probably definitely overpaid on this, but I think down the road, especially if I can hold on to it, I think I'll be okay on it. All right, the last book was, like I said, maybe a little bit of that overpaying as well, but it is also a very fine copy of this. It is Mr. Miracle #1, Jack Kirby's creation from April of 1971. And as I said, this is a 8.0 or very fine candidate. 8.0 just recently went on eBay for $125. That's very low. It's fact, you probably should have bought that. But here is a surprising, somebody way overpaid for an 8.5 back in June of this year on eBay. They spent $925 for an 8.5 of this, and that's crazy. Somebody must have just, I don't know. That's crazy, because you can find other sales at the same time, May of this year, for $138, and that's more, that's actually a pretty good price. 9.0s go for about $222. That was a most recent sale of last year, in July of last year. I haven't seen a 9.0 go since, at $222. Heritage Auctions, kind of hard to tell. That's been over a year, so I don't know if that's even a relevant price at this point. But this is a very nice, very fine copy of this. So we'll see what we can get on this. I hope it grades out well, but to be determined. But anyway, that's all the books I got from Heritage Auctions over the last few months. I did do an unboxing in one of the previous videos where it was just a comic book haul, mail call, my mail call video. In fact, I'll leave a link for that at the end of the video today, where I did open up a Heritage Auctions, my most recent sale that just came in, and I included it part of the mail call. So otherwise I would have put it on this video, but there were a few more Heritage Auctions things. Overall, Heritage Auctions, I think, you can find some really good deals in here, especially right now with the market down. Even with the buyer's premium and the extra fees that you get on Heritage Auctions, I think you can definitely find some good deals. In fact, if you go to Go Collect and you go down the prices on any of these, generally the Heritage Auctions price will be a lot cheaper than a lot of the eBay fixed or even the auction prices that books go for. And as I said, I think this is a buyer's market right now. You can definitely find some good keys out there. You can still overpay, like I probably did on that Fantastic Four 72, but I think in the end I'll come out okay on that, like I said, if I just hold on to it for a while. But overall, I'm real happy. These are all great keys to have in a PC. These are all what's called foundational comic books, and they all have significance to a certain degree, some more than others, and just great comics to have in the PC. These are great books that if you had displayed out when people come over, these are all conversation pieces. So definitely some good books, and I hope you enjoyed the unboxing today. Alright guys, that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed this unboxing, this comic book haul. Let me know what you think about these books, and if you have any of these books in your PC, by leaving me a comment in the comment section below. And if you guys are ever interested in any of the books that I feature on my channel, definitely reach out to me at collectorauctions@yahoo.com. DM me on Instagram, or check out my eBay store or my Shortbox page with the links below in the description. So that's it for today, guys. I'm out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and remember, every comic has a story.